cultural independence in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization.
Excellent. Now we move to approval of the agenda, but we don't have a quorum. Can we approve the agenda? Okay, we can still approve the agenda. Great. Superintendent, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
You know what? I'll second that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, so we have approval of the agenda. Next up, we have an introduction of the interpreter. Superintendent?
I don't think we have anybody in the audience.
Okay.
Unless you need somebody. No.
Okay, excellent.
I'm just joking.
All right, so now we move on to our presentation.
Yep. Thank you very much, Board President Anderson, members of the board, and the Santa Fe Public School team. This tonight is something we're very excited to talk about. Also get to introduce you to maybe some staff members you may or may not know. With us tonight is Crystal Ibarra, our Chief Equity, Diversity, and Engagement Officer. Raquel Plaza, Deputy Chief, Equity, Diversity, and Engagement. Sabra Romero, she's down there, Volunteer and IPRA Coordinator, and Ruth Pettis, our Event Coordinator. And then, again, special guests, we have Vanessa Romero, Deputy Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and Mr. Bill Rodriguez, Director for 21st Century and Summer Programming. So we have a big team here with us tonight to talk about all the great partnerships, initiatives, organizations that we collaborate with that sometimes may go overlooked. And tonight is a way to bring that forward, talk about some of the great things this department pulls off. I'll let Crystal describe exactly how she talks about her department and what they do. But our objective tonight's really for an overview of, oh, I forgot I have the clicker. I'm not used to it. Overview of what we're doing with our community, with our partners, engagement with students, staff, and also our community, but also potential Santa Fe Public School Board priorities as we're entering into budget season. Some of these things the board has really invested in, such as cooking with kids, NDI, CIS, things like that. So we'll briefly talk about that, give you guys some food for thought, so you may want to start thinking about board priorities. Also the impact and how we're spread across the entire community. You know, our approach now is not just about educating students, it's about being a positive contributor to our community and really trying to develop role models and productive citizens once they leave our system. And then at the very end, obstacles and goals, and some of these things could be also a board priorities. So again, we'll go through it. It's a lengthy presentation. We're not going to hit everything. There are certain highlights that the team will talk about. If you see something within the presentation that you may want to ask, please do so. And then for my team, study sessions are more of a conversational type setting. So they may be asking questions during the presentation and not wait till the end. But again, it's more of a free-flowing dynamic when it's a study session. Okay.
Alright, so thank you for allowing us to present to you guys tonight.
Crystal, do you mind if I ask you to turn your mic?
Oh.
Sorry, just for the people at home. We can hear you just fine.
There we
but
go.
Just on YouTube. sorry.
I did not even realize that it was there.
It's fancy.
So thank you for letting us present tonight. The slide we're looking at now just kind of takes you through a number of our engagement efforts, attendance, community schools, parent academy, volunteers, tutoring, our district and school site events, and then other significant partnerships. I'll tell you there are other things that my department does that are not on here, but there are just so many to name. I actually joke with the superintendent that our department is one of superintendent and board initiatives. You guys think it, we figure out how to do it.
In a short time. Usually the turnaround is a week, right? Or two or three, right, Ruth? And I also want to put out there before we continue, you know, I want to apologize if we left off any community members, any community partnerships, because there is so many that I'm sure we left some off. So I want to put that out there immediately that we apologize if we failed to mention.
Yes, and if you would like to stop along the way, I actually got a count before we started putting this presentation together. Overall, our district has 217 partnerships. And so just too many to really go in through and list. And so if you'd like to stop along the way to talk about anything specifically, just let us know. I have our lists that support most of these initiatives, so we can talk those through if you'd like to. We also have curriculum and instruction presenting on their family engagement, their comprehensive literacy state development grant, of course the summer programs, which we help with as well, and then the work-based learning. Okay, so we are starting off with attendance. One of the things that was really important to note here was just the funding that we've utilized from ESSER to support these efforts. As you guys are aware, last year we really pushed forward and declared attendance a board and superintendent priority. With that, we have the 5 attendance coaches that operate under my team. They do so at the district level. We essentially have them broken up with school sites that accumulate or cumulatively equal about 2,000 students each. Some of the school sites have heavier needs than others, but they all work to make sure that those sites have attendance teams in place, that we are getting the attendance plans in place, which we actually report back to the public education department, working with them to develop incentive plans. Like I think you're most familiar with El Dorado, they have their little reward store right up front, which is part of that incentive process that they've developed, which is very, very cool. We also provided team stipends for the attendance team members at the school sites. And so that first slide really just kind of speaks to the ESSER funding that we really allocated there to support those initiatives.
And with that being said, board members, that could be something that you see as a priority, because that was funded through ESSER.
So these teams and the coaches are doing lots of outreach, home visits, referrals. They're very connected. We have some great community partners supporting this work. Santa Fe County is a huge one. We also have other supports. I do list here the attendance team so you can see what that looks like. CYFD is a great partner to us in really a proactive approach. They're always willing to sit in our attendance team meetings and think through this on the forefront before students are getting to that chronic absenteeism rate. We utilize our robocalls for notifications, and we utilize attention to attendance. So our A2A letters, those are the auto-generated letters. We actually surveyed principals about 3 years ago to see if this was something that we could do away with, and overwhelmingly they all wanted to keep these letters because it just provides another level of communication to the families. The Center for High School Success is actually coming in to support 9th graders this year, and that is under our attendance grant.
Can I ask a few questions about attendance?
Mm-hmm.
Now I need to start my mic on. Okay, great. So I know it's really difficult and we've talked about attendance all the time because my children are chronically absent, I think, but for, health reasons, right. And I know the state is not allowing us to separate out those two things. And then, but I kind of branching off of that, remember, I think when we had students testify in front of LFC, am I remembering that? Did that happen?
Yes.
And I remember reading their reasons, and I feel like the number one reason was like family issues that they weren't willing to disclose. Was that?
That was one of them.
Okay.
The other one was just engagement.
Okay.
Right, options,
Yeah.
taking a look at it differently, what we're offering,
Right.
right, pathways, things like that,
Cool.
work-based learning, but to your point, yeah, that was one of the main ones.
Okay. And I wonder, how are things like that generally addressed? Is that through the attendance coaches who can kind of tease out that information from the student?
Yeah, the coaches and the site-based teams.
Okay.
So each of our sites has teams of about 5 members. They have one lead and then support members. And so those are kind of like the go-to contacts for attendance needs. Also, outside of that, I will say the secretaries at all of our school sites do such a fantastic job about speaking with parents and discussing these points all the time. But it is a lot of just individual conversations and outreach, having those meetings with parents and students to identify what the barriers are for that specific student. Our root causes are all over the place.
Yeah.
And just also, as I say that, to make note, both the attendance teams and my community school teams are gonna go through strategic planning this spring semester so that we can further develop our plans, knowing that our act is gonna stay the same. Really, we wanna see what steps we can take next, but that individualized outreach is such an important piece of this.
And I just want to add, when we talk about attendance, I want to give credit to our principals and our teachers, because they take attendance every day, every period. So we know, I would say 90% of what we report to the state is accurate.
Right.
And we know that throughout the state it's not taken the same, and the expectations are not given like what we've given. So when you look at state reports on chronic absenteeism as a whole, I think we're very clear and our data's very accurate. So you see us very high where you see maybe other school districts or specific schools that don't require it, and chronic absenteeism at those sites look extremely low.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it's good for us to have that data. And then I have just two other questions. So I hear that principals really want the letters, but I will tell you that more than anything else that people talk about on the board, perhaps even more than the calendar, I hear about the letters. And even I was here probably 30 minutes before I came here, I was talking with a parent who was terrified of the letter and made her husband call the school because she was too scared. And this is like an upper middle class, educated, engaged parent whose kids have been sick. And she was scared. And then I got a message a couple of days ago and I directed her to you guys, but another woman who was also very scared. And then another story of a parent who got the letter and then was scared to bring her child back because she felt avoidant of having to face the principal. I get scared when I get the letters, even though I know that my daughter.
My letter came in the mail yesterday from my
Yeah.
third grader.
Yeah.
I got panicky. I
And-
was like, it's only 4 days. Why am I in trouble?
I know, and I know that like a lot of folks that got the letters are, getting them because they're not getting their kids to school for a number of reasons. But then there are a lot of people, and I know you guys know this, I'm like preaching to the choir. There are a lot of people whose kids are sick, or otherwise are, going to the legislature for this, or, whatever like valid reasons they have for their kids. And my overwhelming understanding of the letters from parents is that they are scary.
Yeah.
And not everyone is a board member who can come to you guys and be like, I got my letter, like, haha, like it can be a little terrifying. And I think that maybe there are some ways, and I think there are tons of ways that you guys are working on these things, but I don't know if we have control over the language, but I feel like they can feel really punitive to say, we're bringing this to your attention. Now you need to talk to your principal. Now you need to talk to CYFD. Now, they can be really scary. And for me, my daughter has asthma. If she gets a cold, she's out for a week. Sometimes she's hospitalized. Sometimes she's in the emergency room. And then, I get a letter that says you're going to be referred to you know the language better than I do, but I just see CYFC there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to clean my house really well because they're going to come to my front door, so I wonder if there's a way that the letters could be kind of more
Toned down.
Yeah, toned down, but not even toned down, just a little more collaborative of so it doesn't feel punitive, so it doesn't feel scary. Because for a lot of folks, I have mild school trauma, I'll admit it. I still find it scary to talk to the principal, and I'm on the school board, and there are people who spent lots of their time in school in the principal's office for not good reasons. And so even though it is a collaborative thing, they're going to school to figure out how to get their kids to school. I think sometimes when it's just the letter, they can feel like it's maybe not a collaborative thing, like they're in trouble, they're going to the principal's office. I don't know if you have thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, I do have two thoughts.
Yeah.
One, our district has been a huge advocate of making the changes in the law that need to be
Yes.
made. And so I'm still advocating for the separation of excused versus unexcused, because unfortunately that just, it does not allow for that.
I know.
But we do have the ability to control the language in it, and so we did try to tailor it so that it started like least punitive, I guess, and kind of worked its way up. I guess another unfortunate part is we have to standardize it for both sides of the families, right? So our letters go out at 4, 8, 12, and 18 days. And that 18 one is the most punitive one. And some of these families absolutely need it, and some of them don't. But we're trying to emphasize in those letters 4 and 8 that please be in contact with the school. At the heart of this, it's being in contact with the school. But we can take a look at that letter 12 and 18 over again.
You know, if we were able to really distinguish between unexcused and excused,
I know.
then those letters would, you know, hit the families that needed it.
Yeah.
And in your case, and yours as well, it's more of medical or other reasons. You know, one of our when Mr. Robbins, our student board member, asked about policy that we have allowing field trips, especially to the session, we want to comply with our own board policies, but at the same time, we're going to get dinged because it's a field trip that is an excused absence, but counts towards the bigger picture.
Right. I know that we're doing so much advocacy with the state to say like because it's the rules that are promulgated, right? It's not the Attendance for Success Act that
No, it's-
it is the
yeah.
attendance. Okay.
And we
Yes.
worked on it last year with the governor's office, CYFD, and PED. It did receive a reading, but then it didn't go anywhere. So we were hoping they were going to bring it back this year, maybe next year when it's a longer session.
Yeah.
Because we do think if they were able to distinguish between the two and draw them out, we would have a better idea of the families and also who needs more support.
Right, exactly.
And pre-pandemic, we did have 2 sets of letters. So under the old law, under the attendance compulsory law, we had the unexcused set and we had the excused. So if your child was out due to illness, you'd still get the letters at trigger dates,
Yeah.
but it would say, please note that your child has 15 excused days at this point. If this seems like an error, please make sure you're contacting your school site. If your child needs 504 accommodations, please make sure to reach out for that. So the language was completely different beforehand.
Oh, having the language of 504 is really interesting because that had never occurred to me. Like Hildy doesn't even have a 504 because, well, I don't know why, but knowing that, you know, there could be a potential for, I know that doesn't excuse or like doesn't get rid of the absence even with a 504, but just even knowing that you could have like some documentation.
Yeah, they read so differently before, and now we've tried to do our best to streamline the language into one letter that accounts for both sides.
Sure, and you don't want a really long letter because people won't read it.
Yeah.
The other question I had on this slide is just I understand the role that CYFD is playing in this. What are the roles of the of Teen Court and SFPD?
Actually, Teen Court is probably my favorite program, and they only take kids 12 and over, but they have actually more resources than CYFD, and they do more of an in-depth look into the student and what they need versus CYFD. So they're kind of our first stopping point for our older kiddos. And so they're run by Santa Fe County. There's been a huge question for years whether or not they keep the Teen Court name or not, because that's not, it sounds so
Sure.
punitive. But it's so well known at this point that they've opted to keep it. They do a full intake with the child and the parent, and then they decide which services they're going to refer out to.
Cool.
We have better success rates through Santa Fe County's Teen Court program than we do anywhere else.
Cool.
This was called Teen Support Court.
Yeah,
Like,
because
because it is scary,
maybe
but
we
it
can write
sounds
a
like
letter.
they're doing good things.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, I had a parent call me the other day that was having problems with her own student and very frustrated, and so she decided to make a self-referral to Teen Court.
Cool.
Just because they have so many resources available
Yeah.
to them. CYFD has both the Child Protective Service unit and juvenile probation. They just see two different pockets of ages. One focuses on parents, the other one focuses on the student themselves. They come with recommendations for provider support too, but we don't have high success rates going through their office, even though they are the last stopping point in the Attendance for Success Act. And honestly, I think it's just that that office itself needs more resources and support.
Yeah. So does that mean they put students on probation, like on a criminal probation if they miss too much school?
It's called a preliminary inquiry, but yes, it goes under the student's name.
Okay. And what role does SFPD play?
So they actually have been a partner in just the communication pieces that we enact. So just really talking through different plans, but also for home visits. And they do support us in a way that is not threatening. They very much understand that when we're trying to do a home visit and we have concerns about the actual home itself, we still want to go in a productive way, and have been very supportive with that. So that's their primary role.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so next we jump over to community schools. We have 7 schools right now: Amyville, Cesar Chavez, Chaparral, Kearney, Milagro, Nino Otero, and Santa Fe High School. We are actually, again, this is another funding, not so much issue, but something to be on your radar. As we phase out of the grant, we are going to have to sustain the funding for our coordinators. And so going into next year, we will have 2 coordinators that we are looking at internally to support their positions. That's going to be at Santa Fe High and at Cesar Chavez. We have some amazing partnerships through this. NEA National and NEA New Mexico provide some amazing professional development. We're also in collaboration with other school districts. Actually, before I walked in here, I was talking to the ABC partnership, which is over in Albuquerque. There's a few things highlighted here about what community schools is doing, but it's really just amazing to see what has come up and come through the community schools. The amount of parent engagement they are getting from in their teams, their site-based leadership teams, the programming they're adding both before school and after school, the business partnerships they're creating. I use Milagro as kind of one of the model schools because to see the way that has been built has just been so fascinating.
Thank you.
Both Georgia Baca and the coordinator started at the school at the same time. They really focused a lot of efforts in the beginning around staff culture, and then they started building out what their needs assessment had directed them to do. So again, they go off their needs assessment and an asset map, and they built in before school supports, they built in after school supports. The community school coordinator was over at Free King, seeing how they can make them a partner versus having frustrations that maybe teenagers were on their front doorsteps in the morning. And so they have just built a lot there, and you can see it when you walk through. Actually, I mentioned to the superintendent not too long ago that we should do a walkthrough of there just to see the amazing things that have happened there.
And this could also be a board priority. As you know, some of these grants that we receive, as Crystal mentioned, expire.
Yeah.
And I know there's an increase to community schools that is currently in House Bill 2, but it doesn't say, and we'll tease it out, whether or not when you have an expiring grant, if that additional funding would kick in or not, or if this is just to expand community schools. So again, we'll wait till it's signed off and then we'll look at teasing out some of the details, but I know in House Bill 2, there's an increase to community schools, but again, the one issue that's not addressed is when that grant expires, it becomes a district cost.
A couple of years back, I realized that as we build this out, I needed more support and networking just available to me. And so I reached out to the city of Santa Fe, to Santa Fe County, and the Anna Age 8 Institute initially, and just said, we're all kind of trying to stream similar pathways. Can we align this? And so they are part of my steering committee. We included this year the NEA New Mexico representative as well. And so we have MOUs with them. They have agreed to continue to support the community school program, which initially was a board initiative, and that's why we launched it those very first planning years. But again, this program is going to go ahead and do strategic planning as well. And so what I'd like to follow up with at a later date is what we would like this to grow into as a district. All right, and then I have Raquel here to talk about Parent Academy.
Well, we're gonna move into the parent aspect of the engagement, right? Because education starts at home. Many of us are parents also, and we know they're key in the success. So the mission of Parent Academy is to equip the parents, giving them the skills, the knowledge, the resource, right? So that they can help their children to be successful. And we're here with them too. And that's our why. Why does Parent Academy exist? It existed for many years. I took over like a couple of years ago. And it's 100% grant funded. I'll explain a little bit more of the funding later. So here you see a diagram because I categorize the supports that we give to parents into three different ways. The first one on top is we give informational sessions. So those are the sessions that are like a one time where you give a workshop, and we partner with the other departments like early childhood or language and culture or teaching and learning, because the parents might need kindergarten readiness. We offer a session on that, and usually it's bilingual. We offer translation. We did a sessions on PowerSchool, how to use the PowerSchool app, how to access. We've done iStation in the past. So it's based, usually we worked a lot in what the families need and what we hear. Like you were mentioning, you hear what the parents say, sometimes in surveys, but other times it's like a one-on-one. So those are the informational sessions one day that we offer in different schools, or sometimes online, sometimes in person. The one at the bottom is the newcomer supports. We started this as a need because of our newcomer population, the newcomers that are here from year 0 to year 3rd, to the 0 to 3 years in this country, learning the language. So we started offering supports for them with other partners, again with workshops in which we would show them how to navigate the system. Is like, how do you know the school system? Who do you contact? How to get information? How to use our website? So we gave those workshops or trainings, but at the same time, we offer supports for our staff on cultural sensitivity, cultural responsive teaching and learning, and how, for example, how to welcome the Afghan group of parents that we have. But we offer sessions not only for the Afghan group of parents, also for the Hispanic populations. We did one for the African immigrants that we had. So it's based on the need as well. And we had very good results. They wanted to have more. So, and we partner with other departments. And we even partner with Albuquerque Public Schools, their Office of Equity and Engagement. We have this collaborative with the big districts, Las Cruces, Albuquerque Public Schools, our schools, where we just get together once a month, and then we're like, what supports do you have for your newcomers? Usually transportation comes as an issue. And other issue, how do you figure this out? So we have these conversations. We also have other partners that have worked with us within the schools, like Las Cumbres Community Service. They're called Las Cumbres, but also Santuario del Corazón. They also offer those supports to our newcomers. Los Niños de Santa Fe, who are given some dance instructions. Cool. So that's some of the partners that we currently have. And then the classes and workshops. So those are the ones ongoing for a whole semester or quarter. And I distinguish them, I separate them by the district level. That's our support that we offer that is open to any parent that has kids or grandchildren in Santa Fe Public Schools. Our most, the classes that I would say they like the most, or they're more like popular, the ESL, GV, and computers. I'll talk about them in a little bit. Our major partner is Santa Fe Community College and the Literacy Volunteers of Santa Fe. And those are the classes, again, that we offer to district-wide. But right now, the Parent Academy is evolving into, and I really like this because I envision this, into some schools starting their own little parent academy, which I'm like, I would envision every school should have their own little parent academy. So I'll give you an example. Chaparral, for example. One of our partners is Real Fathers, and the principal at Chaparral mentioned she had a group of parents that are like single dads that she will feel like they would need some parenting skills. And she was like, but I don't know who to bring or how do we address that? So I connected them with Real Fathers to have that group because this is a school site need. And they started to have those groups and they are their own parent academy. Or they've also, Chaparral and another school, they've also, Milagro, reached out to me because they needed some financial literacy. So we partnered with El Norte. And then they provided financial literacy for parents. So that's the way that is like it gears towards the school. Abriendo Puertas, last year it was offered district-wide. This year it was some of the schools that it was like, again, their little parent academy. So this year, Ramirez Thomas, Kearney, Cesar Chavez, they're offering Abriendo Puertas, opening the doors, which are classes that are like, they empower parents to advocate for their children. And this is with our partner, Earthcare. So some of these are growing and coming up. And again, my vision would be like every school could have their own little parent academy.
I love that principals feel comfortable like reaching out to you and being like, what are the resources that you can connect us to? That makes me really happy.
Yes, and at the end of the year in the open houses, I'm like very proactive. Like I put my little table there. Good for you. So I'm like, do you
Always walking in and out of the building with
my
tables
little
or
my
something.
sandwich board. So I'm like, invite me to your open houses, invite me to your family events. I'll put my little table, I get my sandwich boards, I'm there with my little computer, my free classes, and then I talk to parents about what's their need. Because in the next slide, I'm going to talk to you about the surveys that we get. So it's like, it's more about, we don't want to impose on what the parents need, but it's like, what is actually that you need so that you help us as partners to raise these children, right? To educate these children.
Cool.
So yes, this is happening more and more. So, and then more, like Aspen called me, they wanted to start their parent academy. I'm like, sure,
Cool.
At the bottom of that slide, I forgot to mention, you have a link to the Padlet. So that's a Padlet that we have for newcomers. And is the link has, this is newcomers regarding, but we have like, every time I come across a resource or something on food, housing, health and wellness, education, legal assistance, whatever, I just put it in their website and I share it with parents too.
That's so cool.
So moving on to our three big classes, right? So like what I was mentioning is like we seek parent feedback. So at the end of every class, the semester class, I gave like exit tickets. I have examples of them right here, like surveys that are paper and pencil, because the QR code didn't work that well. Some of the parents could open and some of the parents is like, give me a paper and pencil. At the end of the classes, there's a celebration. And then I want to know what was beneficial about this class. What do you learn about this class? What other classes you would like to see offered? And then what are best times for you? In the past, we used to ask also like online or in person. Now the majority of these classes are all in person. But we still want to gauge, like, would you be more interested in an online class? Because we can offer that. And then informal conversations. So this is what came up, like ESL. So on the right, so you have the purpose of why are we giving these classes, right? And the ESL and the funding. So ESL is, the funding comes from Title I and is being offered several years. But after we moved from the pandemic, it really grew because it wasn't full. And then we moved the location from Desert Sage to Sweeney Elementary. More parents wanted that location, and suddenly the classes filled up.
Cool.
So there's 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3, and there's like 2 days a week. So parents go Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday for 2.5 hours. And the classes can take 30 students, 30 adults. So fall semester, we had 167 adults. Now the spring semester, we started in January, is 160 adults. So our classes are full. And then we offer also the Literacy Volunteers of Santa Fe have a class of 20 students in that library at Sweeney. So that's a good partnership with Santa Fe Community College because they have the instructors, they have the materials. For them, it's community outreach. For us, the parents prefer that area because that's the area where they live, that's the community, they know the school, the parking, they like it. So it's like they come to those classes in the evenings after work. So that's, the participation increase at Sweeney, and they like the partnership. So that's a good partnership. Then we move on to GED and computers. So those two classes are funded through a grant from the city. This was a $20,000 grant for this year, 23-24, which allows us to pay for the instructors. Basically, the GED, we offer it in Spanish. We didn't have a lot of response for the English. We have some 3 parents, and then they decided to move into the community college, which was online in the mornings. Our classes for GED are in the evenings, twice a week, is in Spanish. The instructor is provided by the community college. We started the fall with 14 adults. Now in the spring semester, with the cold of the January, we started with 9, but some of them were continuing, and the effort of taking GED classes, so it's not gonna happen overnight. But this is our goal, is the grant ends in May. So we would like to see some parents already, they're finishing some of the portions and maybe getting their GED. And then the hope is to get, we're always seeking for grants in our department, to get more funding, to continue the funding if it's a need.
And on that,
Yeah.
Raquel, I've talked to the mayor.
Yeah.
He wants to continue supporting that. I've talked to the Leno Foundation. They were very impressed and said they may have some funding for it. And as we know, this is one of those small pilot projects that I gave them and said, can you get it off the ground? Because we know when you help the adults of the family and you help them open up additional doors and they can earn more, the outcomes from the students will improve, right? Not only academically, but just social emotionally as well. So for us, it was really about trying to help our students, and everything's interconnected. If you help the parents, you're going to help the students by default, just like we've and you guys have made a big investment in investing in our workforce, because we know that's going to produce better outcomes. So this was one of those initiatives, ideas that we discussed, but something that we feel could really make an impact, not only with our students, but in the community, right? So we want to be able to be a good community partner. And Raquel's done a great job. The instructor there is having a blast.
Yeah.
And wants to increase the number of adults that he's helping.
Yeah,
That's
we
awesome.
have so I'm constantly, if there's openings, you'll see it on picture, probably.
Yeah.
So that's why I put this one, and this one is connected, because our computer class, which is not through Santa Fe Community College, is through an independent contractor. The last few years was offered at Cesar Chavez. And some of the parents says, you never offer anything midtown. And sometimes we have to travel over there. So it's like, I move it to Salazar to see what happens. Last year we had like about 8 adults, and it bumped up to 14 adults in the fall. Now this spring semester, because there's 22 computers, but you can only sit 21 adults in the computer lab. So we have 21 adults, so it's full. But the first day, I had to go there because I had parents waiting that had not signed in and wanted to be in the classroom. And I had to be with my clipboard. They're like, wait a minute, did you register? Because if not, I had a waiting list. So I put a waiting list, which we already have like 18 people. And thanks to that grant, what we're gonna do is we're gonna offer another class in April.
Cool.
April to the end, to early June, until the grant finishes. And this is very popular because the instructor teaches them, and I have the program here, but it goes from the introduction to computers and keyboarding, very simple, but then it moves into the Google essentials of using Gmail, using maps and photos and calendar, and then Microsoft, the basics of doing a cover letter, doing a resume, how do you do a business flyer, how do you advertise. And then he goes into Microsoft Excel so that they can work on their little worksheets and business and create their personal business earnings formulas. And the last week of the course is social media. So this one is very popular. At the end, by the way, at the end of every class, we give them a certificate. And then there's usually a potluck. And that's when I talk to the parents, give them the feedback, their little surveys. I had a parent telling me that thanks to this course, to this class, she was able to keep her job because she needed those computer skills. And then her boss wasn't thinking of replacing her, and she was taking that class. And I said, I need that as a statement.
Yeah.
You need to write me an email because I need to renew the grants, and I need a statement like yours to say, this is a great cause, and we want this, and we want to keep it.
And adding to that, would love at a future board meeting to recognize those parents that have earned their GED.
Yeah, that would be
You
awesome.
know, just recognize them for all their hard work and celebrate them because it's going to pay off for those students that belong to those adults, but also to our community.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have a few by April or May, so that would be really nice.
That's awesome.
And that's it, like hopefully we can continue getting some grants and again, getting feedback and adding more. Now I hear some parents saying, when are you gonna offer Spanish? Or, for parents that wanna learn Spanish, or sometimes it's like, they put arts or culinary arts, or I was like, okay, we'll see. But
And they feel comfortable in our schools. And
Yes.
I think, maybe even exploring a partnership with the community college to provide instruction in our schools could be beneficial not only to our parents, but also to the community college, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's something for us to explore because I think we're doing great things. Sometimes we get caught up on just educating students, but our approach has been different, and I appreciate the team and all of the board members as well because you've allowed us to expand our approach, right, and become more community-based.
Yeah, and this is aligned with the community school strategy and is aligned with, like I say, the vision of, in the future, would it be nice if the parents are leading some of the workshops, are leading some of the classes themselves, so that's what I envision.
Cool. That's awesome.
Passionate.
My husband talks a lot. He lived in Houston for about 6 years, and there was really robust adult education that wasn't community college classes. It was just, where do we go if it's not work or church or a bar? Like, where do we connect with other adults and have meaningful experiences? And again, that does have a positive impact on students.
Absolutely.
Having more support, having more relationships, having a stronger network in our community,
Yeah.
that's good for everyone. And I'm so impressed by all
Well,
of this.
and opening up the door of opportunity, right?
Yeah, I do agree.
One common thing, I think you'll hear, and you'll put the pieces of the puzzle together at the end of the presentation, is this department is really funded off of grants, fundraising, things like this. So all the work that they're putting in, all of this entire presentation that you see really comes from outside funding sources. So that's why it's always so important that we're advocating, we're talking about how we're a good community partner because, the golf tournament, for example, and we'll talk about that a little later, everything we earn goes back to our students and staff.
Well, and if we could ever help you with those efforts as the board members and elected officials, kind of like with our networks, please let us know because it's really important. And these numbers, the 167 and 160 with the ESL at Sweeney, that's great.
Yeah, so you're welcome to visit them. They're like Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8:30, and they're learning their English.
Cool.
So you're welcome to visit anytime.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
thank you. That was a good transition to the golf tournament. So I'm passing the.
I didn't even
Actually,
notice that.
actually, it's volunteers.
Oh, volunteers? I was like,
Okay, so next we're moving into volunteers, tutoring,
pass it on to you later.
and most specifically meal here, so Sabra's gonna be speaking
Cool.
to us about those efforts.
Okay, so tough acts to follow.
I'm excited about my job,
Volunteers. Okay, so we have a mixture of different participants. We have parents, grandparents, siblings, community partners, community volunteers, staff, other students that volunteer. And we combine them into kind of 3 categories: administrative activities, student support, mentoring, and tutoring. So it's kind of like, originally it was kind of like a tier system, but then we kind of tried to like get away from that. But these are all the community partners that I work with that are options and have opportunities available for people to participate. As you can see, there's tons of them.
Well, we just had a meeting today with one of our community partners, and Sabra shared a number that shocked me. She said we have 600 volunteers, over 600?
Yes, so we have 656 current active volunteers, and we will clear 800 by the end of the year.
Cool.
Isn't that amazing?
So
That is amazing.
we had 800 last year, over 800 at the end of last year. So, so we have a wide net of community partners and people that we work with. Volunteers also include contracted staff and staff of partnering organizations as well. And it affects all of our schools and all of our students, so everybody's impacted by it. I do a lot of cross-departmental work and collaboration regarding the volunteers to provide training for them. This year we did a little bit of something different. We did like a little conference at the beginning of the year, so that was a new kind of thing that we did, but I do provide training, and then of course, onboarding support and an ongoing placement and ongoing support as well. I am going to be working with 2 of my core volunteers that I've kind of been working with for many, many years, and we will be working on strategic planning. Some of the areas that we would like to strengthen is placement closure and a bunch of different areas, but that's kind of what we're going to be working on over the summer, starting next week. The volunteer program, other than my salary, is fully grant funded, so everything that I get, I fundraise, or everything that I pay out for the volunteers, I fundraise, so volunteer appreciation, training, all that stuff. And then that kind of leads us into tutoring. I have developed several different tutoring avenues. One is the homework hotline. We have offered 112 sessions, tutoring sessions this year. Most of the sessions are ongoing tutoring matches. So and it's all virtual. So they come into a Google meeting, and then they're put into a breakout room with their tutor to work on whatever topic or subject that they need. We do have all the subjects covered, and so that's kind of how it works, and all of the tutors are volunteer. I do have a little helper, I call her my little helper, Aseneth. She does the operation of the hotline, and it's offered Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6. Cool.
You guys remember Aseneth, right? She was a student board member.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And then, of course, we offer site-based support, classroom support, and tutoring. And then we have the community partners as well up there that that offer tutoring on site. And Big Brothers Big Sisters isn't on there because they're more of a mentoring, and we were just focusing on tutoring. But there's also a bunch of mentoring partners as well. Near peer tutoring is, I'm not sure if you all are familiar with it. We did launch it in spring of 2022. And it is a sub-award from the state, but it is ESSER funding. So we will be, we have until September to spend the money. So we have a little bit of time. Basically, what we've done is created a space for high school students to learn about the teaching profession, and then go and put them into practice. So the applications that they're learning and the content that they're learning, they go put it into practice at the school sites. So right now we have 5 participating school sites. We have Cesar Chavez, Amy Beal, Nina Otero, Milagro, and Gonzalez. And so we basically, they have tutoring sessions after or before school or before school at the school site. And then every Wednesday during early release, we have training. So up until this year, all the training was virtual. But this year we did something a little different. We purchased Educators Rising curriculum, and we have a staff member from district office, mostly a couple of principals have offered, that will go in and teach a certain topic based off of the curriculum from Educators Rising.
Yeah, so it was a way for district staff to go back into the classroom.
Yeah.
Right, we all started off as teachers. We entered the profession as teachers, or maybe even I entered as an EA, long-term sub. But this was a way for us to give back, also reconnect, provide us the opportunity to ground ourselves in the work once again, because when you become district staff, you tend to forget at times why you're here, right? It's about those students. So district staff, I know Deputy Superintendent Romero and Assistant Superintendent Casals taught the first class of the year, if I remember correctly.
2 weeks ago, we taught
Yeah,
the
2
third
weeks ago.
session.
Last week was
It was fun.
Mr. Howard Exner, who volunteered to teach a class. This week was supposed to be me, but I'll be leaving for a presentation tomorrow, so Sabra's gonna have to teach the class for me.
Which is funny because I'm not a teacher.
Well, Ruth is going to be
Yeah.
a teacher someday, and so she's gonna be teaching
She's
a
gonna
class.
teach a class. So it was really cool too because, and I do want to talk a little bit about the topics that we're covering. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want to touch on that a little bit. Classroom setup and structure, social emotional learning, experiential learning, and mapping resources. So that's the one that superintendent was going to cover, and then when he told me he couldn't, I of course melted down, and then and then I looked at it and I was like, wait, this is what I do. This is gonna be easy. So one of the things that has come up is that I've worked with the Community Educators Network on securing the Wallace Foundation grant for them. So they put aside a little bit of money for this program for me to bring in some of the community partners. So tomorrow we're going to be mapping CEN partners and when they want them to come into the classroom and work with them in their programming.
And this kind of goes back to the request from Secretary Gonzalez, trying to build educators pipeline. And so this was our attempt to start that process. And again, it's ongoing, but again, I can't overemphasize that everything that you're hearing tonight, ESSER, grant, other funding sources. So this department does a great job of coupling together all those different funding streams so we can be able to provide this robust menu of options. And I would challenge any other district across the state to show us what they're doing in these areas.
And also to kind of build off of that, so we also, each cohort, so each school site has a team of tutors that are in high school that attend one of our high schools. But they also have a mentor teacher that supervises at that site, and they have a tutor facilitator. So one of our tutor facilitators actually graduated from Capitol last year, was a tutor last year, and is now promoted into that supervisor role. And the facilitator is really there to support the high school students, right? So we have the mentoring teacher who's there to support everybody, and then we have the facilitator who's there to support the students and help them with getting everything ready for their sessions. I did purchase the curriculum for 3 years, so we have it for 2 more years after this. And actually more like 2.5, because we got started a little later. A lot of our facilitators are college age. I didn't mention that. I wanted to emphasize that because I think that's important also. And we do work with student nutrition, transportation, and teaching and learning to help with student wellness too. I mean, it's all over. We work with everybody for this program.
Do you find it easy to staff those positions, or are you
The after school,
the
like the
facilitators?
teachers?
Or the facilitators?
No, that's difficult.
Okay.
So, in fact, so we have 27 current tutors that got hired for this year. And we have 2 facilitators right now, so we are short facilitators. It's hard because St. John's doesn't have transportation. Transportation has been an issue. So in order to offer that, so Educators Rising, the thing that we're doing different this year is we're doing a combo of in-person and virtual. Whereas last year and the year before, it was only virtual. So I did get certified to drive students.
I love
So I'm transporting some of the younger students that don't drive. So hopefully we can add more students because a lot of the St. John's students don't drive.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much. Next we move into district-wide events. We're gonna start with the golf tournament, because it's our major fundraiser, but hold on tight, because there's a lot here.
And please, you guys received an email, try to, spread the word, ask for sponsorships, get teams, because you really see why that tournament is so important to this
I
department.
love this flyer. I know, it looks great.
Yeah, Cody did a great job.
Ruth Pettis is our event coordinator, so she's gonna speak to
Yeah,
this next.
and speaking of the golf tournament, and I apologize to Ruth after I put her, under the hot button. The first year we got this golf tournament, I gave her 3 or 4 weeks notice to pull it off. And she did. And even the golf course told us, you guys did this in 4 weeks? That's amazing. Usually it takes months. And so I had to apologize to Ruth. I said, okay, I'll give you more leeway next year. But, it's good. It's in its 3rd year. And it was a way for us to, again, be creative with generating funds. But when you go out there, it's great just to socialize with community partners, with parents, with teachers, staff members, a way for us to socialize, in a very unique way. And I think it's grown. We have a waiting list each and every year, so it sells out, but we're always trying to grow it.
I wonder if the board should be a team this year.
Yeah, if you guys want to lose, then sign me up for that team.
Well, my team loses every year, so don't worry about it.
We'll always give you a good run for your money there.
Yeah, I thought 2 of my partners were gonna give me a dirty looks, because usually Kathy and Vanessa are on my team.
I'm like, shoot, like 75 over par or something like that. No, I'm just kidding.
At least you know the language.
Did I do that right? I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I do have to say that first tournament was a lot of training from Sabra, so I have to give so much credit to her for that. It was a big group effort. This event really is our biggest fundraiser of the year. Everything I do the rest of the year kind of depends on this golf tournament, so no pressure there.
Got it.
It raises about 75% of my budget. I think it's closer to 77, but I wanted to get it safe. So 75% of my budget. This is our 3rd year, and I am so excited. I was like shaking when I found out. We got our first title sponsor, which is a big deal. We haven't had a title sponsor in the past. The title sponsor is about as the $10,000 donation.
Wow, that is-
We didn't quite with this title sponsor. He got to 75% of it, and I was like,
Good
that's
enough.
good.
Yeah.
We're gonna run with it. And so that was first national. So we're really thrilled to have them. We also have expanded partnership with Tesla. They actually reached out to us. We're still solidifying what that looks like the day of, but they're gonna be joining us, and we'll have some exciting things coming from there. This is not a me thing. This is really the whole district gets involved, all of our departments. We have 13 departments that really get hands-on. They're reaching out to our vendors to get sponsors. Last year, we had 41 sponsors, and we increased our revenue from last year, and I'm hoping now with a title sponsor, we do the same.
Cool.
How much are the teams?
$500 a team. And what's very nice is, it's at Buffalo Thunder this year. They give us a great discount. So, the more teams, the more we make off a team entry fee. Sponsorships are great. There's different levels as well. I don't remember all the different levels and what it comes with. But also, one of the things that we really try to do is reach out to vendors that may not want to sponsor a team or buy one of our sponsorships and just donate, a door prize. Because everybody loves going to these tournaments to see if they win a door prize. I think that first year we actually had too many. I want to say we had 50 or 60 door
That's
prizes.
funny.
Anywhere from tickets to the Lensic and the opera to gift bags to rounds of golf. And so we're always, if you guys know of people that want to donate just gifts or door prizes, it goes a long way and it draws out people because you don't have to win. You don't have to be a great golfer. If you have that winning raffle ticket, then you can walk away with something.
So you buy raffle tickets for the door prizes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, I can do that. That I can,
We,
I can
we
do
have
that
two
instead of
different
golfing.
options. So with our bigger prizes, I will sell tickets specifically for it, and then I'll
Yeah.
kind of have a generalized, like, win tickets to the opera. So that way we can I can tier them and maximize our fundraising efforts.
Cool.
Well, and I can tell you, because I put on golf tournaments for the Boys and Girls Club all the time, and I after your third or fourth year, I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't get teams for $1,000 a team. I played in one last year for $1,000 a team and sold out. So I think next year,
Yeah.
consider you probably could get $1,000 a team. I'm serious. I couldn't believe it, but
That's something to, because
Yeah.
we do have a waiting list each year. We
Yeah.
sell out immediately. And the course determines how many teams can play.
right.
And we even explored doing a morning and afternoon because it's grown so big.
Yeah.
And so,
great.
you know, again,
When you sell out, it's time to raise the
Yeah.
prices. Yeah.
That's I
And
couldn't
with-
believe it, and they sold out.
Yeah.
They did it last year, and they're like saying that's starting to become the going rate.
Yeah.
People are getting used to paying
Well, and
that.
with-
So
And, you know, the third bullet raises 75% of the budget. And once again, I can't emphasize enough, whatever we raise goes back to teachers,
Yeah.
goes back to students. It's nothing that we keep. I mean, we zero it out each and every year.
So it's a little tight.
Anderson, even if you do not want to play, you're welcome to just go join us there at the front. My team is kind of hanging out, making sure that everything's still running smoothly.
Registered, yeah.
So you are
Perfect.
welcome to
And I
do
have a
that.
golf shirt.
Yeah, and the other thing we do,
And we'll get you a
we-
SFPS.
I have one. Don't worry.
we have extra golf carts on site. And so even if you guys didn't want to play and you wanted to just drive around and socialize.
Oh, if you need
thank the
volunteers.
sponsors and thank the people for-
Yeah, I can drive a golf cart.
You know, last year was, and Ruth did a great job, we actually had a professional long drive individual show up and participate. And he had to have been, what, 6'4", 6'5", his back was like a V.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
Wow.
massive individual, but holy cow, could he hit the ball. So you would pay for him to hit your ball. So it was,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's a great event.
It was super exciting, and that was another way we were able to maximize revenue is because I think we got a little bit more than half of that. And so they're coming back again this year.
Cool.
So I'm capped out at about 30 teams, but sponsorships, it's unlimited.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
always kind of the goal, keep going.
The sponsors are on the next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if you guys, I'm not gonna read all the sponsors because it would just take a long time, but most of these sponsors are coming back every year. So it's kind of repeat, I would say that probably about 75% of them are coming back and some of them are new.
So
Okay,
again, this is the 4th of May.
this is May
Yeah,
4th,
May
yes.
4th.
That's a Saturday. I'm putting it on my calendar right now. That's a Saturday?
It is,
All right.
okay?
I'll put it on there.
It might be a Star Wars theme on May the 4th,
Oh,
right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we can have lightsabers
Oh my
in the golf cart.
Can I dress
My
up like an
lightsaber
Ewok?
anytime you want, Sabra. Said anytime you want to dress up like an Ewok, just do it.
Even at a board meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have to put pressure on Sports Primo to become a sponsor.
That's right. I don't see their name on the list here. Oh, you're gonna do it this year, right?
We have,
You're doing it this year?
just need someone to call us and we'll write the
There you
check.
go.
Nice.
You heard
There
him.
you go,
There you go.
another sponsor.
We have it on tape.
You know that.
Okay, moving on to some of the other district-wide events that we support. And there are times where, like the college signing day, for example, this is at Capitol High. This is not an event that I host, this is an event that I kind of help support. So I step in for fundraising for it and day of event. And so that's where that is at. We have so many different community partners. You guys should have received or will be receiving an invitation for this event. I love this event. I'm a big kid at heart. They always have a jump bounce house and an obstacle course. I do it every year. I think that these kids have so much fun.
That's awesome.
And that's where the fundraising efforts go back to, being able to provide food and the bounce houses for the students. Moving on, this year we had our first wellness drive. This is kind of something that I wanted to try, something that was completely new. It was a very snowy day that day, but we did have about 200 people attend. I was really happy about. We had a blood drive. I don't think we got a ton. I think we got maybe 10 people donating blood, but we also had vaccines, and I think 134 people were vaccinated that
That's
day.
great.
So that was really exciting. So many families left with bags of groceries. A lot of our community partners stepped in to be able to supply things that maybe I can't supply. So it was groceries, it was resources. How can they fill in that gap for families? So that was a really fun event. And I also was able to give every student that came, they left with a beanie and gloves. Because I always want kids to be able to leave with something. I want them to it be memorable and for me to actually give back something.
Well, and that's a really useful thing.
Yeah. They always lose
Not a
them.
junk toy that the parents are gonna be annoyed with.
I did give a junk toy because I thought the kids would be mad at me if I just gave them gloves and a hat. So it was okay.
Are those the ones that you brought to Career Day? Were those the leftovers?
Probably. Most likely. Lots of leftovers.
And as we go through these events, she's very strategic about placing them in schools throughout the district. So that was held at Sweeney, as we talked about our movie nights, those have been held throughout the district. So we definitely try to do a rotation of our schools.
Cool.
Thank you, Crystal.
And can you get us a list of like these events where you're looking for sponsors and donations on just email or?
Yeah.
I can.
Because sometimes, like I said, again, we have a network and as
Yeah.
an elected official, when you've had to raise money before, you kind of get used to.
Let us
calling
help you.
people And asking, so, and there's supporters of ours that are like, what can we help you with? And I don't mind calling them and saying, will you help
Thank you.
with something that the schools are doing?
And I think just keeping this as a reference, so you can even share with your network, all the great things happening, because I don't think a lot of our community understands what we're doing with this department, and that's why it was so important to really give you guys an overview of the amazing things and initiatives that this department puts on with little to no funding.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of all of those. Some of these I've become more familiar with, but I'm learning a lot this evening.
And just jumping on to that point, with each of these events, I don't rely just on the golf tournament money. I continue to reach out to sponsors to see if I can get a sponsor. So the wellness event, I was able to have about maybe $1,000 that went back to it, and I don't think the event even cost me that, just being able to give back. Okay, let's see, moving on to the other one. So a couple other things that we do. We help facilitate the coat drive from KOAT. That's really just organization, gathering numbers and distributing them. That doesn't cost us anything. We also have our back to school drive. This was launched last year within about 4 days. So I will.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't have time for that one.
I told you sometimes I don't give them very much lead time. Something will pop in my head. I was like, Ruth, can we meet?
I did sit next to Ruth at Career Day at Amy Beal, and the phrase I heard over and over again was like, thinking on my feet. She was like, it's a great job, you just never know what, and I'm learning all these skills, and I was like, oh, she's selling it, and it shows, this is really
Well,
valuable stuff.
Yeah, that back to school drive, they cleaned out a couple of the local stores. We announced it, and what that was is, it was paper bags full of supplies, school supplies, leading into the school year. And as you can see, we had 320 bags full of supplies, and we put the announcement out. And before we even opened the gates, we had a line out the parking lot, down the road, around the corner, and we ran out. So we felt bad. We ran out within 20, 25 minutes, and we had a line. So we've already pre-planned for next year. I think we said we were trying to have about 1,000 bags. Is that correct? Is that what you told me?
That's my low estimate. I think I can get it higher, but I don't want to commit to something that I can't bring through. But we're working really hard on hopefully getting at least 1,000 bags out
And,
to students.
it's an amazing event because you see cars full of kids. I mean, you'll have the adult drive and then you'll see 2 in the front, 3 or 4 in the back. And I don't want to get anybody in trouble because I know you need to have a seatbelt on, but it shows that there was a need,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
for this. And they were extremely grateful. Everybody that we gave a bag to said, thank you, we appreciate it. We felt very, very bad when we had to turn away so many cars. So we're going to try to expand and again, looking for partnerships because, you know, this is something that we spend, you know, some of the money, ESSER at this point, to really provide kind of a jump start to our kids, having the supplies they need for school, right? That's a big need in the community.
What was interesting when you announced at one of our board meetings about the coat drive and how we need adult coats, because everybody wants to give the
Yeah.
kids, it seems like,
Yeah.
and you forget about that. And I went home and I told my wife that, and she's like, yeah, that's right, that makes sense. We always think of the younger kids, and we don't
Yeah.
think of the high
High
school or middle
schoolers,
schoolers.
yeah.
So.
Well, we even had high schoolers come through and get a bag full of supplies. I
Yeah.
mean, so we, to your point, we always think of the younger ones, but, you know, we had every age group come by, and so it was amazing. And again, it was a way for us to just say, hey, we're here to support you, you know, please, you know, let us help. So great event again, so.
And it's helpful when you announce these things to us the way you do under your updates, because it gets the word out and then it gets us thinking, like, oh yeah, we need to make some calls.
And going back to that back to school drive, I'm already in the process of planning it now, so I have a lot more time to hopefully create a much more improved event and get school supplies in the hands of the students who need them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then movie nights again. It's one of those ideas, Ruth, can you pull it off?
Those have been really fun. For our outdoor ones, we get about 400 to 500 people. Our indoor ones are a little bit smaller just because of space and I think the time of year as well. So those are closer to 200 to 300 students. For that one, that is one of my more costly events because mostly the cost of the screen and the licensing. But I want these events really to be family oriented. I don't want to charge, the only thing that we do charge for is we allow the PTA or the student council, whatever school we're at, to fundraise. And I always encourage them, like, I want you guys to make a profit, but
Yeah.
please, like, be mindful of everybody who's coming. And every school has been fantastic and very supportive of that.
Cool.
But we're able to give out free books at that event. We provide face painting, silly
Yeah.
things like face painting and cotton candy and popcorn, just so that families, you know, whether or not they're going through a hard time or not, that they can just have this free resource where they can build that connection with their family and a healthy relationship with the school district as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's on here, but I wanted to add one of the other, oh no, there it is, oh wait. Go right
Okay,
ahead.
oh my God.
I made a note down here, but I see it a few pages.
And at that last movie night, just to touch base, I did make that, I have 3 kids of my own, so I kind of like use them for inspiration, like, will this work? So we had a Super Mario's movie, and I just had this vision of getting mustaches for all the kids and then showing up in costumes, and my dreams came true. They were hilarious. We had so many little kids coming up. They had these little mustaches on them. They were adorable.
Some of, you know, another reason behind doing a lot of this stuff was a way for us to try to market Santa Fe Public Schools as a place to come to school, move to the community. You're cared about, we provide offerings. We've heard great feedback from people just moving in that districts that they left didn't have these type of, you know, opportunities and engagement with the community. So again, we're trying to make Santa Fe Public Schools a destination, not only for educators and other staff, but for families to choose us.
Well, and I think to President Anderson's point earlier about parents who have had not great experiences in schools, to have experiences where those are fun things, and you meet the teachers and you meet the principal, and it's not in a high stakes setting where we're all sharing community together.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
just so important.
we go out, you know, there was, I think at El Camino, I was playing chess against a couple of kids, and, you know, so we all get involved, and it's just not, you know, on the department, we go there, we get involved, we interact, and, you know, it's a way for us to build relationships.
Cool.
And I'm gonna touch base on some of these, and then I'll have Crystal touch base on the other ones. Staff appreciation. We do this about 2 times a year, so that includes like they may include breakfast or little tokens of appreciation. And that is really where a lot of the funds from the golf tournament, I really want our staff to feel appreciated. So I take a lot of time and like what is actually useful.
And we put a lot of time packing those
Oh,
bags
yeah.
in here.
I like to save money and sometimes that means hard labor is involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we do. Our staff welcome back efforts, that's also part of getting them either breakfast, bagels, donuts, appreciation. And then also under staff appreciation, I'm just gonna throw this in there. The golf tournament helps provide a way for us to have a retirement dinner for our staff. And so that is another, I would put that under staff appreciation, that every year that's part of where the funds go. Moving to our arts and crafts fair, this was kind of spur of the moment event last year. I used it as a fundraiser and we raised a decent amount of money, but I wasn't sure, do I want to do it again? We had a great turnout, but is it worth it as a fundraiser event? I had so many people reach out to me in the summer and in September asking, are we doing this event again? So I was like, well, okay, let's try this again. And so I use it more as a community engagement event that thankfully that doesn't cost me anything and I make a little bit of revenue on. We have, I wish I would have written this down, how many vendors we have. I think we have close to, I don't remember if it's 50 to 100 vendors. We get a lot of vendors. 35% of that is the community, but then we have 45% that are staff and 20% that are students. The staff are so creative. I have authors every year who come and I'm always buying from them. I'm a big book reader, so getting to hear their stories. And I know that we've built connections just with staff, not knowing, oh, hey, this person does this. I can connect them with this resource. And then the students, it's just so much fun to see them, like, their creations and be excited about what they're doing and to share it.
And they're the greatest salespeople
I
out
bet.
there. They do a wonderful job.
We got our Christmas.
It cost me personally a lot of money to host this event.
Best place to spend money though.
Exactly, local. And then we have art contest. So we have a couple different art contests. We have our, for the Hispanic Heritage Month, that is our big one where they submit art and we have a panel of judges and we reward them with gift certificates to artisans. Sometimes, we've had the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce step in to be able to provide prizes, but there are times where our budget kind of steps in to fill that void. We also this year have I'm sure you guys have seen our Welcome Back to School banners. This year we've turned it into a contest for students 7th grade and above that they can submit artwork, and that's what our banners will look like in the fall. So we're looking forward to that.
And on those banners, if you wanted to talk, they're
So our current banners are very cool. We made sure to get a list from Language of Culture of every welcome back in every language known in the district. And we made sure that we were inclusive and that was included on the banner.
Cool.
So we'll continue to just assess for that equity piece and include it as we move forward.
That's awesome.
and something we didn't put on there because it's a new partnership. We don't put any funds to it, but we're the host of the Santa Fe Gloom, that indoor soccer team.
Oh, yeah.
And I was able to attend their game Saturday night. One of the asks that I had when I met with David Fresquez, who's the owner and CEO of the team, is that all of our students get in for free.
Cool.
And I went there this previous Saturday. It was full. It was full, and some of the comments I heard from families that came up to say, thank you for being a partner in this, is it gives them something to do on a weekend for free, right? Games were amazing, a lot of fun, and so I think, again, just providing opportunities for our families and communities to get engaged in, at little to no cost, and that event was wonderful. I saw city councilors there, saw district and site admin and others. They're supporting Sports Preno broadcasting the game.
Nice.
But yeah, I think, Joe, what would you think? How many? 500, 600?
It was a nice size.
Yeah.
It was more than the first crowd.
Cool.
So it's growing, but also it gives our students. Now, the nice thing about it, the pro game is at 7 o'clock, but I think there's 3 hours leading into that 7 o'clock game that our students get to scrimmage one another indoors, in front of a crowd. And so again, engaging with that soccer community, we know it's very big here. They're looking for places all the time in the winter. But this was another great opportunity to grow the sport, try to create feeder programs into the high school soccer teams, but for the kids to be able to go in uniform and play in front of a crowd, I mean, to me, that's priceless.
Yeah.
And then just to finish off this slide, again, inclusion, our translation services for any district-wide events. We do provide translation services in any language that might be needed. This also includes our movie nights where we make sure we have subtitles on the movies, because we do want to be making everybody comfortable and making sure they feel included in movies. The last couple slides just go over again some significant community partnerships. We, can you pass that back this way?
Oh, look, sure.
Thank you. So we talked about a few of these already. City of Santa Fe County. Connect is run by both Santa Fe County and the City of Santa Fe. They really are trying to identify how we can make referrals through them. So this should become a big partnership soon. We talked about Teen Core and the Center for High School Success. And then, of course, all of these amazing community and business partners. And just as a reminder, if there's any that you would like us to bring back for a follow-up engagement session, just let us know. We will tap into them, as well as parents or students. We are happy to round up those folks as well and bring them back for further community engagement discussions. And then, of course, the state of New Mexico, including the public education department. And I just have to kind of close it off with saying I just have an amazing team. This is 3 of my team members. We also have our admin assistant here in this office. Outside of this office, I have 5 attendance coaches, a social service specialist that really focuses on the safety net efforts, which again was a board initiative to make sure that we were keeping eyes on students that withdrew and we could not identify their next placement. And then alongside that, our 7 community school coordinators. So I just have a fantastic team really helping to launch these efforts.
And we've grown this department, you can see why. I mean, when Crystal started in the department with Dr. Lutman, I think it may have just been you two, and some other support. So we've made some shifts, we've added some positions because it's grown and we think it's, one of the most important departments to build community.
It's actually kind of funny if you see where we started. Sabra, Cody, and I started together in what is now split between Raquel and Sabra's office, but the 3 of us were in that space with desks like one on top of another. It was wild to see how it's grown since that point.
We have been super fortunate. We have a grant from the PED. It's the Comprehensive State Literacy Grant. We're in our 5th year. However, this is our very last year. The first 3 years of the grant, we had a position at the district level. It was a family engagement person that worked in teaching and learning. And we realized it wasn't very effective because it was one person trying to support 28 school sites. So last year, we made the decision, the person left, she left the district, and we said, do we hire or do we just take this money and create stipends for school sites and have leads? And so worked with the union, created an MOU to create stipends. So now we have 28 teacher leads at every single school site, and they plan all the family events and activities at the school. And the mission is to serve birth through 12th grade in literacy, and of course we're incorporating math and having many events. To this point, we have had 83 school events. Part of the MOU is that each site has 2 events in the fall and then 2 events in the spring, so a total of 4. But they've been really creative. They've had career nights, they've had, and you can see, book giveaways. They provide family sessions, just on SVG or, cultural nights, movies, wellness. They have drives at the school. So these leads have spent a lot of time organizing the events. They are also required to come in and they meet with teaching and learning staff. But it's called a community of practice, and so all these leads are sitting together and they're sharing ideas on how to create community and build community at the school site. So there's meetings in the fall and in the spring.
That last bullet, I mean, 83 family engagement events just in the first semester, you know, is great. This is something else, board members, you may want to take a look at as far as maybe a priority, because did you want to talk about the grant? And
Yeah, the grant ends this year. So with this grant, we've been able to hire 2 literacy coaches that support early literacy and then secondary education. We have a coordinator that's being paid out of this grant. And then, of course, this is the last year of the funding. So that position was about 70,000. We've spent about 65 in just stipends to pay for the leads, but this is also grant funded and this is the last year. We're super excited about family engagement. And then, of course, these are just images and pictures. We are required to have lots of artifacts and documentation because we do have to report it to the PED. So these are just some of the artifacts of the event.
And I'll tell you, Deputy Superintendent, I've been to a few of them around the district, and they're a lot of fun if you ever get to pop in. You know, Taro had Pete the cat walking around and guest readers and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Sometimes they team up with Parent Academy. You know,
Cool.
I've been in some of the trainings where like let's share ideas, let's share partners, so we're teaming up.
So we'll move on to summer programs, you know, and I'll hand it over to Bill, but I just want you guys to get, again, a little bit of history as to why we started this. A creative way of creating a year-round school system, but also not mandating our staff having to teach during the summer months. It's really up to them if they want to apply for it and get approved. We put a call out to our community partners, so you know it's really community based. But when we first started to discuss summer programming, we opened up one of the local papers as we're leading into the summer, and we noticed that summer programming here in Santa Fe is pretty costly. Runs about $350 on average per week. We also knew that the students and families who needed summer programming the most couldn't afford it. So we did leverage that first year ESSER to start this project. We had 33 programs at that time, and it's like the 5th bullet. We had 33 programs and engaged with about 2,600 students on a voluntary basis. Last year it expanded, and we'll definitely let Bill talk a little bit more about this, to 44 programs with over 3,300 students participating. They range from, you know, art to struggling readers to math camp to, you know, it just covers a wide assortment. So again, this is another way for us to partner with our community. We cover the cost. We allow them to use our facilities because we know that's where families and students feel safest. And again, going back to that first summer, we leveraged ESSER. We knew ESSER was running out, so we've already made the transition over to city funding and Title I. And so that's sustainable. I want to make that note. So that is sustainable. And just kind of setting the table, I'll definitely let Bill talk more about it.
Sure, thank you. So summer programs, it's an unknown. So right now, we're in the middle of that unknown. We don't know how many proposals we'll get for this summer, but based on what we saw last year, you know, we had 44 programs submit proposals at a cost of $1.7 million, which we did not have ESSER funding for. And so thankfully for our federal programs director, Ryan Cooper, she used Title I money, Title IV money, we used ESSER money to fund all of those all of those programs. Then Crystal was able to bring in the city with $150,000. And so we're just in that process of looking at, of people applying for the proposals. And like Superintendent Chavez said, we get a range from soccer camps, environmental justice camps. Our third grade reading camp was very successful last year. It actually was a first through third grade reading camp. Our math adventure camp has grown, and that's a camp specifically for rising freshmen to try and learn those algebraic skills, since that's the number one failed course in high school. And so that'll be back. And then they build some amazing cardboard boats and water bottle rockets, and that's always a fun camp to go out and look at.
One of our very unique camps that we keep getting a lot of requests about more information on it from other districts is our newcomers camp.
Right, yeah, our youth
You know,
committee.
and again, it's for those that English is not their first language and may have just moved into the community. One of the reasons why we started that camp is we were trying to prevent those students from being pulled out of core during the school year. And we said, well, why don't we have, you know, a 4 or 5 week summer immersion camp? And so all these camps, they range anywhere from a week to maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And when we put that button up on our website, that I think comes in when we start looking at some of the information that we're receiving of who accesses our website, what pages. I think it comes in at 3 or 4 for that short period of time. They are accessing that page constantly. And so I know we start getting calls when we start nearing the summer. When is the menu of summer camps coming up? And I think that's, you know, it drives this office, you know, a little crazy, is because they're always asking for, you know, can we see what's being offered? And, you know, it's great. These camps fill up. You'll see them on the other slides, you know, how we're engaging with them. But we're making progress, and some of the feedback we've received from teachers is that those that participate in summer programming, they see the students coming back better prepared academically and less behavior problems.
I definitely heard that.
Did you too?
While
Yeah.
I was campaigning in the
And
fall.
so each year, we're trying to improve our application process, and one of the big things is data. So we follow that, and that's the reason why all of our programs, it's a requirement that we have student IDs on them, and then we can track. And what we're finding is that kids that are participating in summer, we have less attendance issues. They're attending school more often, and so that's always great.
Academic outcomes are better.
Right. On the next slide, where you see the different programs, the highlighted yellow ones are all of community partners that had proposals. The unhighlighted ones are all programs that are run by district staff.
Well, and
you
I
see those others.
can tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Super, that you feed a lot of these programs too. And last year, right before the summer started, a lot of them were notified that Food Depot was not gonna provide them food. And the district stepped up and gave them food. That was huge. And so a big shout out to you and the staff for,
That was a lot of
Doing
work
that.
on Bill's part.
So,
yeah,
it's-
thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
feeding
and,
that.
and it's still a need.
Yeah.
So we have, if I can just go off script a little bit, our 21st century sites, because of Food Depot shutting down,
Yeah.
We don't have food, hot meals for our students. And that's 880 students within our district at 13 sites serving 16 programs. And so I'm constantly, it's always on my mind, because I know we have kids that are hungry. And I know it's on superintendent's mind as well. And so we're constantly looking for partners, and so that's where we are with that.
Well, and I know the state, again, just looking through House Bill 2, has allocated money for after-school programming and summer programming. I've been advocating every time I'm there at the Roundhouse, make it easier to access that funding, because even though they made an effort last year, and Bill can talk more about this, we couldn't access that funding like we needed to. And you see the cost, you see the need, you see how it's expanded. So Bill, do you want to talk a little bit how that worked out for us last year?
Sure, so, Food Depot, what it would cost to run or to feed all of our students for 30 weeks of programming is roughly, $500,000. If they're using the federal repayment program, and so that's at $4.62 a meal. And so the big issue is we need a commercial kitchen and transportation to 16 sites. That's the big issue. And that's what's been holding our student nutrition from taking over that. We don't have transportation or hot boxes or the gas and food prices have just gone up.
Or staff.
Or
I mean,
staffing.
their
or
contract
staffing.
does not run through the summer.
Right, and so that's been a roadblock, and so we're constantly looking at how we can work around that. And so, so our students do receive snacks. Summertime, it's full meals, breakfast and lunch, and we just continue working and plugging away at that.
And
Bill,
Bill,
and some of these programs, sorry, sir, may have transportation, and maybe since you're helping them, they could help out too by making an extra trip or stopping somewhere else on behalf of the district. Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Boys and Girls
Yeah,
Club and their bands and
right.
their, because they have all that equipment, or maybe they can partner
That'd be
and
something
since
to
you're feeding them,
explore.
they would be willing to stop at
Yeah.
other sites or something, I don't know.
And Bill, you want to talk a little bit about the state allocating summer programming money, but it was difficult for us to access. Only 21st Century
Right,
could really
so-
access that money, and so that's why this session I've talked to I don't know how many people. Just make it easier. I mean, we have a model that's working, that's serving our community, but we can't access the funds from PED to be able to support it through the state. It's coming out of our budget that we're setting, and it's a difficult task on all of our part to approve a balanced budget and meet the needs of everyone across the district. If we were able to access these funds, we would be able to reallocate some of that funding elsewhere, right?
Right.
You wanna-
So, what's happening at the federal level with 21st Century funding is the federal government is kind of freezing that funding, and they're giving it to the states to then give to us. And so HB2 and most state funding for out-of-school time programming is an example of that. And so we were able to apply for that last year, like in April, we had a few weeks to jump on that. And so that's actually funding 3 of our sites. But the state only released 20 million statewide. And so even though we applied for serving 240 students, we were only received half the funding. So when it comes to summer programming, it's how can we extend those funding? So one of the things that's happening is I'm on a national committee out of the U.S. Department of Education, and we're looking at how do we leverage and build capacity within our out-of-school time programming. And so not this year, but next year, that committee that I'm on will be making recommendations to Secretary of Education on how we do that.
That's great.
But it's simple. It's like make it easier for us to access the funding, make it easier for us to feed kids and not have to have a full-time person just dealing with the paperwork on that. That's what's holding up our nonprofits from helping us out. That's what's holding up our district. We don't have a paid position that we could do that. And so, and the sad thing is, and I was just speaking to Crystal about this, I received an email last week from PED. There's $236 million of IRPA funding lying on the table that districts have not used. And,
Not our
and so,
district.
and so they're suggesting if you have nonprofits, let them know. Nonprofits can reach out to city and county governments to request that IRPA funding. But that's another way that we can kind of leverage and get more summer funding and get more summer programs up. Because I hope that we reach these numbers again, 3,000 students. It just depends because our ESSER funding sunsets June 30th. And so we're looking at, depending on what programs we receive proposals for, what we can fund, and what kind of magic Ryan can make for us.
And you kind
She's
of
pretty
hear different months and dates, and that's why when you guys approve the budget to be submitted, it does change, throughout the entire year because there's opportunities, there's grants, there's other funding sources that we're trying to access constantly. It's just not us presenting you guys with a balanced budget for approval, submitting to PED. It's ongoing, it's very fluid because we see the need here and we're trying to always access funds to continue programming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, we'll move on to quickly work-based learning, and we're speaking of ARPA. City of Santa Fe, we're very fortunate to invested almost $800,000 in work-based learning for staff, teacher stipends, and paid internships. Again, you can see on there, we've had over 250 student interns that have successfully completed an internship. I want to say the success rate is above 95% of students who start and finish. Oh, it's right there, 95% completion rate. That was just off the top of my head. 30% have been offered a job afterwards, right? So you can see some of the partners, but we have over 55 business partners, and that continues to climb. We get individuals that come out and ask us. You know, I know Sports Primo is a partner of ours in work-based learning, and they are teaching students how to produce and stream live videos, post on social media, do a lot of the interviews. So our business partners continue to grow. It's just not where we started initially, and a lot of times we start to talk about, you know, the hospitality industry being our first partner. They were not our first partner. They were our first community partner, and they're the ones that help us really grow it. So we're thankful to them as well, and the Lano Foundation. But going back about 6 months prior, we had an issue here in the district when we had 8 mechanic positions and we only had 1 field. And we were talking about whether or not we're going to be able to service our own buses to be able to transport kids, and we know how vital transportation is. So I approached Deputy Superintendent Wagner, and I said, well, we have ESSER. What if we went to Early College Opportunities, ECO, and asked those students who are going down that pathway, would you want to service our buses, you know, under supervision of a certified mechanic? They said, absolutely, we would love to do it. So honestly, that's how work-based learning started. It was helping ourselves. And when I talked to, you know, different school district legislators, we'll be presenting on this later this week. I simply ask them, do you have vacancies? And if they say yes, I said, that's where you start. You don't need to start with business partners. You can help yourself, because each one of those positions is funded. And so just transition that funding into a paid internship, and you can help yourself. And that's how we started. So it was internal first before we went external, but it's grown, and it's something that, you know, is being considered a model. I just talked to somebody at the Roundhouse that's been watching. He's been in education for many years and was actually a deputy secretary for a short time. He said there's 3 models in the state. It's the Lano Foundation with hospitality and Level Up. It's future-focused education with what they're doing, and it's you guys. He said those are the 3 models that we have in the state, and he said it's models that we need to continue to replicate and offer, because it continues. And again, it was one of those things where we're going into the community wanting to meet with our legislators or others during the summer, show up to a restaurant, and they would have a sign on their door, closed for lack of employees, right? So he said, well, again, how can we be a contributor to our community? How can we build a pipeline into it? How can we re-engage with a lot of these students that need to work to support their home? And we thought, if we can provide them the opportunity to participate in an internship program, earn some money, they're going to stay in school, they're going to attend school, and they're going to be engaged in their learning. So that was, you know, another reason why we were trying to do this. But, you know, it wouldn't be possible unless you guys approved and allowed us to hire a work-based learning coordinator. There's no way we could pull it off. That's a full-time job. And Jose Villarreal's doing a great job of really growing it, making the partnerships. So, you know, we're very fortunate we could bring him on board to really put this in place and run with it. So, you know, very fortunate. But again, it goes back to, you know, kind of our new vision of not only educating students and not only being a choice for employees to come work for, but a positive community contributor. We want to be able to do that, and I think, you know, we have in so many ways, this department and others. So again, very fortunate, but also very thankful for a board that supports our ideas, our initiatives, and sees the value in it. Again, district communications platform, this is just quickly, you guys can take a look at, but an overview of everything we try to do. We try to saturate our community to really get the information out to them through social media, videos, podcasts, website, YouTube. We just launched Pencils to Podcasts, and we had our first podcast with student-led interviews of their principal. And so that has gained a lot of attention from individuals that Vice President Beta and I have talked to, but also PED now wants to have students interview the secretary. So, I think we're doing a great job of just reaching out. We can do a much better job because I think we have to change the narrative that's in our community about, bad things versus the good things. And you can see we have a lot of great things going on. So through the Reimagining Steering Committee, marketing, and we're very grateful for Ancorum, who's providing us a grant for that work. But again, I think we have to be able to change the narrative because great things are happening. And I still remember, I think the first week or two that Vice President Beta was on the board and we took him around to schools. And, one of the things he told me is, man, there's great things happening across the district. We just need to be able to educate our community. So again, we have many, many ways of getting out information. So last but not least, obstacles and goals. Fundraising, state funding, big obstacle, but also a big goal of ours. If one door closes, we try to open up other ones. So that's always going to be an obstacle, but something we're taking on with the challenge. As you can see, another one, staffing. As we continue to grow, the opportunities for our community to get involved with us. You see this department has grown, but also, our attendance coaches. We have 5, and the ratio that they have, student to attendance coach, is roughly 2,000 to 2,500 to 1. So when you look at staffing, you see this group, you've heard everything they do. Sometimes I have to remind my staff not to give them too much, but they do an amazing job. They never complain, and they pull it off with the greatest precision. So again, want to thank them. Some of the goals, again, we want to make sure staff and students always feel appreciated. So that's always us giving back to them, knowing that we hear them, we appreciate them, and we support them. A goal, as we've mentioned, and this came out of our retreat, is creating a Santa Fe Public School Foundation. And this can help with generating funding, right? Fundraisers, golf tournaments, other initiatives. I know Ruth has asked me about having a ball, things like that. So I think a foundation could go a long way in closing some of these gaps, these funding gaps. And I'm glad that the board has supported that. I'll present a little later on. I think I have an idea of reallocating an FTE so we don't grow admin staff to start to support an executive director of the foundation. So it wouldn't be adding to our budget, it'd just be reallocating an FTE to get that off the ground and running. So I think that's something we need to keep an eye on because that can go a long way across the entire district. And then, last but not least, we want to be a good community partner. And that's been our goal, not only to educate students, but just in general, provide opportunities for adults and also for others to get involved and partner with us. So with that, I know you guys had asked questions, but that does conclude. I don't know if you guys have any other comments, questions, but we're here to help.
No, you guys are doing such a great job. The only thing, I think, Crystal, you and I talked about this briefly after the last meeting, but it's good to sort of see all of the programs and where everything is coming, and then being able later in the year to come back with families and members of the community to sort of talk about how those are playing out, hear from folks that are taking advantage of Parent Academy and and then also where we can improve and or how we can hook people up with things that they don't know about would be really helpful. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, and we're open to having any of those conversations, including we didn't get down to the nitty gritty of the budgets that are supporting some of the work. I was thinking as we wrapped up community schools, even though we get these grants, there's such specific items that we can use it for. And so even talking through like those details, we're happy to come back and talk about, we're happy to bring our partnerships and
Cool.
really expand those.
Wow. When I moved back with my family in 2016, I was not as like connected to our school community that first year, but I could see all of the cool things that were happening across the city and in the county, and I just kept thinking, why are we not more connected? Like, why is this happening over here and this is happening over here, but these people don't know about this? And there was such, and I just feel like this is such incredible progress. Like, you guys are linking people up to the things that they need. It is truly community support. It goes way beyond educating students and absolutely has an impact on those outcomes. Like, it's just, you probably couldn't tell, but I got teary multiple times while you guys were talking, because it's like, wow, just thank you. Thank you. It's so important.
Well, thank you.
So grateful for you
Yeah.
guys and your work and your vision and your innovation and like just that can-do attitude of like, well, let's try it and see what happens. And you're knocking it out of the park. It's amazing. And I'm so excited to see what more we can do, because it's absolutely making a difference. And yeah, you have our full support. And I'm really excited about this SFPS Foundation. I think President Anderson and I had multiple conversations before either of us was on the board about PTAs and equity and how do you allocate those resources and how do you like, and so yay.
Yeah, I
Yay.
know. It's all
Like,
coming
stuff takes
true.
years, but
Yeah.
then it can happen,
Yeah.
and it's just incredible to
Well,
see
we
the
have
work
our
being
business
done.
partners through work-based learning that have come forward and asked, you know, we'd like to donate, or others in the community, do you have a foundation or a 501c3? And at this point, we do not.
Yeah.
So we would have to, you know, ask other partners to be the fiscal agent, or, you
Yeah.
know, when you deposit it within, you know, one of our line items, you have a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to use it. So this could go a long way. And to your guys' point, I think we're on the right path. The great team, wonderful team. And again, I think we gave you guys some ideas about maybe more priorities, what to look for. And then maybe what we do is annually at the beginning of the school year, present this rather than, you know, in the middle. That way you
Yeah.
kind of have an idea going into the school year, and then you can help us engage, because I've asked the city and county if they want it even for us to present and talk about initiatives, or even me go in front of them and just to help educate. Maybe they would become partners in some of this as well, because to your point, Board Member Bose, if we can get united as a whole, we can produce great things in the city for everybody to participate in. But right now, I still think we're operating in some silos. We're starting to bridge those gaps, but we still need them to be partners of ours.
And just lastly, I, on the work-based learning topic, wanted to suggest again, the Home Builders Association. Like, we always talk about the shortages of affordable housing, and my dad has been a general contractor here for decades and just says that there's not enough workers now, electricians, plumbers, like stucco people, like every aspect. Those things take weeks and weeks and weeks for the contractors to be available to subcontractors. So I think that that's a really valuable thing that will serve the whole community.
Totally.
If we
Getting
can
those
figure that
human
out.
jobs.
Yeah. Good
Good
pay.
stuff.
Yeah.
One of the other things I meant to mention in one of the last slides, just so you guys can put it on your radar and expect it, we are gonna be launching this semester another district-wide equity survey. The last time we did it was in the pandemic, and so we're using the same company to launch the survey. We really wanna see how the needs have changed since then, and then really just get a pulse on the equity issues throughout the district so that we can move forward next year.
Cool.
How does that go out? Like various ways, like not just a Google form, but lots, or is it?
Yeah, no, last time we actually did it through a Remind link, which is
Oh, right.
how we got the highest
Okay.
amount, and we make sure that they're very pointed questions, so you're not taking a 30-page survey.
Okay.
It's very succinct. But then we also made sure it went out on social media, that we got it to our community and our business partners, that it was on the homepage of the website. So there was multiple avenues, but that should be happening just before spring break.
Cool. All right. Are we good? Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so should we move on to our action items? We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull any of those?
President Anderson, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Great, we'll move to advanced planning. So our meeting on the 22nd, the superintendent very wisely suggested that we make this finance subcommittee meeting and go over essentially like the pre-work for the budget. Do you want to talk any more about
Sure.
that?
Yeah, it's to talk about, what happened this legislative session. What are some of the requirements, such as raises, and right now in House Bill 2, it reads 3% across the board for all employees, so that'll be, a cost. But also maybe taking a look at what it looks like currently, this fiscal year, what our cash balance looks like, some board initiatives, also maybe some asks that you guys may have or we may have. So it's really about developing the timeline so we can start to frame it out. We have spring budget workshop next month, which sets the unit value. We can talk a little bit about the unit value and cost and things like that. So it's really just to frame it out, start discussing and setting the timeline and framework for the budget to be presented to you guys, as the months move along and we start to get more information. So, it's also going to include drivers such as student enrollment, where we're at the beginning of the year to current day, different items like that I think would help inform you guys of where we're at, how we look financially, and then also what the outlook could be for this upcoming budget season.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. Then we'll have our regular meeting on the 14th. Do you know if you guys have CRC on the 20th?
That's the plan. Yeah, we
Okay.
skipped this month's
Okay.
meeting, so.
Cool. And then hopefully we can have a study session in March. Do you think the student achievement data will be?
We're hoping,
Okay.
so, for those that, because Crystal was even a little surprised, I said we're gonna have to make a little switch and talk about community and family engagement partnerships, because the student data was supposed to be released last week, and it still has not come forward, so we're still waiting for grade level, site level data plus graduation rates.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Do you guys think that would be helpful to
Yeah.
talk about as soon as possible? Okay, great. So maybe we'll kind of pencil that in, hoping that in a month they will have released that data. Great. And then anything else on advanced planning for anyone else? Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good job.